The voice of sharing, DurianASEAN.
Hi, welcome to the Durian Heat. This is Arlene time, and today we are going to discuss regarding on Nelson Mandela, lessons to youth. Nelson Mandela is a prominent historic figure that has transformed not just South Africa but also the world. His brand of a non-violent movement has inspired many young people to focus on leadership based on serving others. Delane Lim speaks to DurianASEAN about lessons that we can draw from Nelson Mandela and the upcoming Global Youth Summit in Singapore, which will be held on the same day as the Nelson Mandela Day on the 18th of July 2016.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi, welcome Delane.
Hi.
This is Arlene.
And this is Grace.
And our discussion today talking about Nelson Mandela lesson to young people. In conjunction with that, Agape is holding an event to celebrate in conjunction with Nelson Mandela Day for the Southeast Asian youth. Tell me more about the event.
Sure. I think this is our 8th Global Youth Leader Summit that we usually run it in July because July is an important month for young people. It's Youth Month. So coincidentally, Nelson Mandela International Day also falls in July. So we decided to do something on the 18th of July. So the theme for this year is Why Celebrate. The Y means youth. So you celebrate. So the four keywords for this conference is on sharing and serving, leading and learning.
Why focus on these 4 themes? Share, serve, lead and learn.
Because these are the 4 things that Nelson Mandela has did during his time as a politician. So we thought that it would be good that we want to frame the whole conference in such a way that there is an opportunity for youth leaders in the conference to share, serve, lead and learn.
So this event has been holding for the past few years already. And what are the changes have you seen so far before we talk about this coming up event?
I think one of the key changes or one of the key highlights this year, because typically our conference is run in schools and in conference hall.
Right.
So over the last 7 editions, it's always run in campuses, running in hotel convention centers and seminar rooms. But this year is a bit unique because we decided to bring the whole conference into a bowling center.
Wow, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we are converting the whole bowling center, the Singapore Bowling at Rifle Range into an events venue. Because at the end of the whole conference, we are going to get them to bowl with the people with disabilities. So it's going to be a very interesting concept. I mean, we can sense how it will look like, but we don't know whether it would execute the way that we want to be executed. So
the 8th Global Youth Leader Summit 2016. This is the 8th time that Agape Character and Leadership Academy have been hosting this.
Correct.
Who are your partners this time?
This time we have quite a lot of international delegates from the Southeast Asia.
Right.
We also have people from Japan, from Korea, from Hong Kong, and as far as South Africa, because it's Nelson Mandela. So so that explains. Yeah. So unlike the last few summit, the last few edition, we usually invite international speakers from UK and US as a keynote speaker. But for this year, we have included a special segment for local Singapore youth leaders to share. So you will see the president of the student council or a president of a club here to share about their learning journey as a leader.
And what's interesting when I'm looking at the program is you also provide a humor side of Singapore. You invited Joseph Tan. He's a Singapore comedian. Tell me more about this.
We brought in the humor portion because I think if you understand the Singapore context, we are a racial harmony oriented country. With the demographic that we are in right now, we are into technology, we are into social media. So what we post online sometimes can be pretty sensitive.
That's right.
And sometimes it can be just a joke, but people may not look at it as a joke. So the intent of creating humor is the importance of laughing out loud. It is okay to joke, but we need to joke it right. So
right, that's funny.
Yeah, so we have this LOL called laugh out loud, joke it right. So we can laugh. We can laugh at our own race, our own culture. But I think we also need to be mindful when to joke and what is the overall intent. We want to let them understand that it is okay to joke, but if your intention of the joke is to create a social divide, then it's wrong. If the setting is right and everyone has the right mindset, then I think when we start to talk about our color, our creed, our culture, we can joke about it because we embrace differences and we celebrate similarities.
That's interesting when you highlight about that, because when it comes to Southeast Asia, diversity is definitely one of the core backbone. Without a nation where it embraces diversity, it's really hard for a nation to celebrate unity and peace.
Yep.
In this case, you also invite artists.
I think we invited a very interesting artist called Peter Draw. He is a Singapore artist, as well as he uses drawing to bring about certain learning concepts and leadership journeys. So I can't reveal too much. I can't reveal too much about what he's doing, but because we are also kept in the dark on what he's going to present. But as far as I know him as a friend, he uses drawing to reach out to young people and to let young people understand that the world has different colors and what are the choices that we make will impact the future as well as the life that we will live.
Mm-hmm. It seems like you use a lot of arts and
entertainment to engage with young people.
If you look at the whole concept of this conference, it's not just the arts, it's not just the music, it is also about the sharing, and we also put in the element of sports. So the sports is where at the end of the session, everyone will go for a tour in the bowling center at the back of the house. At the same time, they will also be bowling with the para-athletes as well as friends from the international countries.
Oh, that's great.
So I will say this event is very youthful and a very lively event.
Last year's focus was on food. So you realize that for those of them who are here, there's a lot of food. So we brought in the durians, we brought in the different cultural food from the different countries. So this year, I think we have decided to tweak the anchor into more culture. It could be a sports culture, it could be an arts culture, it could be a community culture.
And this will be held on the 18th of July 2016.
Yeah.
The whole day, in fact, will be at the Singapore Bowling at Rifle Range Road in Temasek Club. Anyway, this is the end of the first discussion. We will continue the second segment where we discuss more about young people in Singapore as well as the world.
You're now listening to DurianASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And you're still with us on the Durian Heat, where we discuss issues in Southeast Asia, as what earlier we have discussed on the Nelson Mandela lesson to young people, in conjunction with the Global Youth Summit organized by Agape in Singapore. We discussed earlier a lot about the event, but at the end of the day, the ones that are going to lead the future of the country are the young people.
That's right.
So what are the issues and concerns of today's young people? Let's focus on Singapore, since you're from Singapore.
Well, I think I will focus as a whole in ASEAN. I think today young people, they are pretty interesting group of creatures. human beings, I think as the generation changes, we are really looking at dealing with different demographic of young people. Today's young people are very talented, but they are also very easily distracted. We are also looking at a culture where it is a generation that sometimes can be misunderstood, because today young people, they are named with many kind of names. It could be the strawberry generation, the peach generation, and the latest one that I know is called the Durian generation.
Oh, why Durian? Tell us more about it.
So I'm quite sure that the listeners will know what is the strawberry generation and the peach generation. Mm-hmm. But what is the Durian generation? The Durian generation is where young people today are soft in the inside, but they are spiky at the outside.
Wow! But it's got nothing to do with smell.
It's nothing to do with smell. But if you look at durian has a lot of interesting purposes in terms of the parts of the durian. So if you look at the flesh, is the part where most of us love eating, and the shell is where, there's a myth that says that if you wash your hands with the shell, it can get rid of the smell. And you look at the stand of the durian, it can remove the smell in your car or in your house. So you realize that if you look at the durian generation, young people has a lot of talent, hidden talent, as well as talent that are exposed. But we have a big problem. The problem that we have is that they are too soft inside, in a sense that we need to start to build their resilient level, because we realize that young people today need choices. The moment there is no choice, you realize that young people will swing to the other side, where they find that they are being jailed in a capsule where there is no choice. So when we talk about the softness of young people, yeah, they are compassionate, they are empathetic, but in terms of resilience, there's a lot more to work on in ASEAN youth as a whole. It is not just ASEAN youth, but I think internationally, if you look at US and UK, they're also facing the same problem of young people. Then when you look at the shelf of the durian, the spikes of the durian, we are facing a war with their parents, because their parents today are overprotective.
Right.
So when their parents are overprotective, it is very difficult for them to grow as a leader if they always think that they have choices to do what they want to do. So the resilient component comes in when I give you no choice. And therefore, when there's no choice, that's the only choice, it builds resilience. That it is pretty difficult to build resilience if you are given so many choices and so many options. So if you look at the whole program that we or the mandate that we try to create, is to allow young people to take risks and take responsibility.
Right.
That is important. Without the help and the protection from the outside, which could be from their parents. So I think young people need to learn how to make mistakes and face their mistakes. So that is one of the key leadership attributes that we are hoping to bring about.
Well, apart from the learning process from this event, when we go back to the concerns among youth coming from Singapore, what will that be? What are their main concerns nowadays? Because nowadays there are lots of information, the platforms that youngsters can just easily get from. At the same time, there are still a lot of population among, especially among university students, that they tend to take quite an advantage of what's available already. So from there, that has led to a lot of concerns and also problems in this society. So would you enlighten our listeners in terms of the concerns from youth?
I think in terms of our young people, I think they are very knowledgeable and resourceful, because they are able to get things done and get information fast. But one of the big problem one of the key problem that I believe is about the information that they have that they have received from different sources. So I think the key word that I would use is the whole idea of discernment, whether you are able to know what is right information and accurate information, because we are filled with so many information.
That's right.
And the moment you open on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, there are so many kind of news, so many different versions of news. Now, these are made available for young people just by the click on the button.
Right.
But the question to ask ourselves today is, what is accurate news? What are gossip? What are news that is worth reading? What are news that we think it is just trying to create a social divide in the country or in the society? So I think that is one key area. The next key area is to look at the potential of young people. Because if you look at Singapore as a whole, I think we've got a very good education system.
That's right.
But when we have an education system that is too good, we also face another set of problems where our young people are too talented. And when they are too talented, then we face the next set of problems where they become jack of all trades, but master of none.
Right.
So that becomes a big problem, where I can be very skillful in all areas, but in terms of a master skill, I struggle to look for what I'm really, really best at. So that becomes one big problem. We can be people of many strengths, but we must still ask ourselves what is our key strength. So young people today are a bit confused. So that is the second part of the demographic of young people in Singapore.
What has caused to triggered to become good at everything, but they are not a master of all these areas?
I think if you follow the education landscape in Singapore and the demographic of parenting today, I think you will be able to look at certain trends. Today, parents are a little bit more skeptical about the future,
right?
And therefore they have to make sure that their kids are well equipped with a lot of enrichment programs and courses. So by the time before they hit preschool or even in primary school, you realize that the kids are already exposed to a lot of methodology and pedagogy, which means they are already very well versed in terms of knowledge and skills. So by the time they hit primary school or in secondary school, there is not much things for us to teach them. So that becomes one big problem. They are growing too fast as a learner. But we can't blame the parents because of societal expectation. The societal expectation is so competitive that they are afraid to lose out. So when you are afraid to lose out, what will happen? Then you will start to give a lot more enrichment classes, tuition, training programs for your kids because you are afraid that they will lose out in the future. But there is an element of play and fun that's lacking in today's young people, which is a worrying part.
To ensure that the Durian generation, you have started the word Durian generation, to have firmer flesh inside is to ensure that to remember to enjoy themselves and not just to study hard. Or
I think one big one word that I think is lacking all in today's youth is the word happiness, personal happiness.
Happiness.
And how do they define happiness? Whether they understand what they want in the future, or are they pursuing something that what their parent wants? So I think that is something that they need to decipher from themselves and to decide for themselves their own future. Is their future being crafted by somebody else, or is it a future that is crafted by themselves?
that's true. Anyway, this is the end of our second segment. We will continue with the third segment and what young people can learn from Nelson Mandela.
Right.
We'll discuss later.
You're now listening to DurianASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, we are back again. This is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And you're still listening to us at DurianASEAN with Delane Lim from Agape, the 8th Global Youth Summit. It will be held on the same period of the Nelson Mandela Day. When we talk about Nelson Mandela, he has been such an amazing person in terms of liberating the nation from being a country that is divided by apartheid to a country that is now the more robust South Africa. What can young people actually learn from him?
Yeah, as in like how can they relate themselves to Nelson Mandela's stories?
So if you look at Nelson Mandela, if you understand the whole history of the politics in South Africa, you realize that Mandela is a very classic case study on how one can lead without having a formal authority. So over the last 27 years when he was in prison, he exerted influence in the country when he is in prison or when he was in prison. So over his last 5 years of presidency, he exerted influence. Over the last decade, even following his retirement from politics, Mandela's influence grew as a global humanitarian aspect. So we have to admit that his influence is enlarged by his virtue of his presidency, but the position and title doesn't define great leaders. Great leaders are defined and leverage the power of position would have a positive impact. So the capacity to integrate and motivate and mobilize others to bring a common aspiration to life is what this whole leadership conference is all about. Not just holding on to a former position or former authority. So this simple truth will therefore give light to this new generation. We call it the up and coming Durian generation.
Right.
That leadership is not an activity that is relegated to similarly a distant ceasud, but good can be done at every stage of a person's career and life.
What are the practical things that they can do so that in their lives, at least they are able to embody the spirit and the lessons from Nelson Mandela?
So I think when looking at developing leadership skill among young people, whether it's at home or in school or in the community, it is helpful to look at mentors and role models that have spent years mastering leadership traits. So if you look at Nelson Mandela as a whole, I would think of 5 key things that I think we should or young people should follow suit.
Right.
First is to inspire with action. How do they motivate others with their own words, their action? How do they give them courage to inspire them to learn more, instilling a sense of possibility, taking every action that will lead to a learning opportunity, and encouraging to move forward with others and to teach others by example. So if you do it, they will definitely follow. So that is the first aspect. The second traits that we are looking at or lessons that we can learn from Nelson Mandela is being better but not being bitter. So there's a difference between being bitter and being better. So if you know, Mandela has always been the impersonation of a powerful lesson. He's put in jail for 27 years, fighting for fairness and equality. But even in jail, he continued to be a leader and to be a symbol of the struggle of the South Africa. So after he released from prison, he became a stronger leader, not a bitter leader, not a leader that is ready for revenge. So we realize that this is something that I think as human beings we really need to learn from him. So that is the second traits that we are looking at. The third one is how do we become a people person. So Nelson Mandela is a very great example of an incredible dynamic leader that is able to motivate an entry country to work together and move past a very difficult time in their history. That's for the benefit of for everybody. And he wasn't even attached to any particular ideology or particular philosophy or goal. But instead, the key thing that he wants to do is to build relationship at all sides.
And this is this is one of the things that I think is lacking in today's generation, which is being having social skills and being a people person. Majority of the time, I think when you look at young people, they are too consumed with their own self.
I think they are able to become a people person, but the question is whether is it sincere and genuine and authentic. Because I think today young people, when with the skill set, with the exposure of education and social media, I'm quite sure that they can increase their EQ. But the question is whether the behavior and the action is something that is authentic and genuine to what they want. The next one will be how do we then help young people to develop a strong character. So Nelson Mandela and his followers knew they were doing the right thing, even though it's dangerous, even though it may cost their freedom and even their own life. But because there is a strong conviction and a strong sense of character, a lot of respect from these followers starts to come in. So we are hoping that young people today, we don't just look at position, we don't just look at title, we don't just look at the tangible benefits, but I think the whole idea is that what is your conviction? What is the conviction that you will live and die with it? So that is important. And the final one is to let them understand that leadership is not positional, but leadership is behavior. It's about an action, it's about a behavior. So even though Nelson Mandela served as the president of South Africa for 5 years, this case study helps us to understand how can he lead without a formal authority. Last 27 years in prison, 5 years as a president, but even though during his retirement, he's able to garner so much influence. And even now, he's not around, people still talk about him. So there must be something in him that create this influence among the world leaders. So if you look at Nelson Mandela, I'm quite sure that there is a unique purpose and meaning in what he do, and how can young people embrace each time to learn, to lead, and to serve. So that is the 5 key things that we are hoping to use Mandela's Day as a platform to share about what are the 5 life lessons that we can learn from this gentleman and this great leader.
Brilliant. To conclude our discussion today, perhaps you can share with us how can young people know more about the event which will be held in conjunction with the Nelson Mandela Day?
Sure. You can log on to our Facebook page at Global Youth Leaders Summit. So I'm quite sure there's only one of the Facebook page. The sign up is right now full because initially we actually cater for 250 youth leaders. But right now we have to double the number because of feedback and persistent requests from the various schools. So we have opened up to 500. But the good news is they can log into the Facebook page because we are going to do a Facebook Live on the event. At the same time, every individual speakers will be recorded and it will be up on the website www.youthleadersummit.org, as well as the Facebook page or our Global Youth Leaders Summit YouTube channel.
That's awesome.
So that is the good news and the bad news.
Well, all the best to you and then to the event for July 18th. And we hope to receive more news from the organization in the future as well. Because
Sure.
we would love to see more improvement and also progress from the youth from all around the world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into DurianASEAN. For more interviews by DurianASEAN, please tune into our website at DurianASEAN.com. If you're on the go, you can always download our TuneIn app on your mobile. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels at DurianASEAN and DurianASEAN TV. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram. We always welcome feedbacks from our listeners. Stay tuned with the Durian Heat from Tuesday to Thursday, the same time at 1 to 2 p.m. GMT+8. You're now listening to DurianASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.